Welcome back everyone to the ultimate guide to Blender 3D rigging and animation. So we finished up on our globe and the next one we're going to come to is our animated fish. So let's close that out and let's bring in our animated fish. Now within this scene, you can see that we have some water. We have our beautiful base and some stonework and things like that. And we've also got some lilies and things just to make a really nice scene. All right, so what we want to do is we basically want this fish to be in this part of the pond and swimming around. And we want it to be swimming in a natural way. So you could use this on, any fish kind of things that you have. You can use it on certain types of animals. You can use these techniques for even birds and things that are flying around or even butterflies. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in a curve and set that up for me. So the first thing, let's press Shift A and we'll come down and we'll bring in a circle. Then I'm going to press 7. I'm going to go over the top and I'm just going to first of all position my circle exactly where I want it. So the thing is it needs to be under the water, of course, around about there. We can move this up and down once we've actually got our fish in there, but I think something like that depth is about right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Tab. I'm going to press A to make sure I've grabbed all of these actual vertices here. I'm going to right click and then what I'm going to do is subdivide. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull these over. So this is basically going to be the path for our fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, grab this vert here, and while I'm over the top, so I've pressed 7 to go over the top, I'm going to press G and you'll find then that you should be able to move that out in a nice, smooth, actual way. So we're going to move it out over to here. And what you don't want to have happen with when any fish is like swimming around or anything like that, you really don't want it to have too much of a gradient. So you don't want it to be really, really sharp. So you can see this one here, it's a little bit sharp. So I'm going to actually try and smooth it off. Now, if you're having problems smoothing it off, like so, just come in, grab both the vertices that you want to, where you want it smoothing off, right click and click subdivide. And then what you can do is you can come in then and just smooth that off a little bit like so. So now you can see it's a really, really nice curve. It's going under the actual lily pads and things like that. All right, so that's the actual curve actually done, ready for our fish to follow that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually come to our fish and we're going to add in a displacement, because with displacement you actually can animate things like fire or fish or birds or moths and things like that. We can actually use the displacement to actually animate something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to our little spanner here, add in a modifier, and we're going to use displace like so. All right, and you'll see at the moment, it's made him kind of weird, but don't worry because we're going to fix that. So next of all, what we want to do is I want to put it onto new. And then what I want to do is rename this. So I want to call it fish swim large. Now, the reason I'm calling it large is because you can actually you can stack displacement. So in other words, you can have like large movements within the fish, but then you could also have very tiny, fast movements within the fish. It all depends really what you want. So as long as you've named this fish large, when we come to our texture map, which is over here, you will see that we've got fish large. If we bring in another displacement, so if we add in another displacement and call that something else, it will appear in here. So you can actually alter them both. You can see at the moment we've got a flame in there. Don't worry about that. So now what I want to do is I want to put this onto clouds. So we're looking for the one that says clouds and you'll see it goes like that. And the reason is because the scale of this at the moment is way, way too small. So this displacement is actually working kind of going on the black and white within this actual image. If I turn this up to something like 1.66, you will see now that our fish is not looking right, but he's looking certainly better than what he did do before. Now, the reason he looks more like a guppy than a fish, or which is a fish, but a much smaller fish, is because we need to change the coordinates. If we put the coordinates on global instead, and let's set the direction to something like Y, now you'll see we've got our fish back. So what did we actually do there? Well, now, if we actually drag him along, you will see that there's a very, very tiny movement of him actually swimming side to side. That is exactly what we want. Now, of course, as well, you can mess around with our actual textures. So you might want to try some of these Octavia textures out, but I find for fish especially, cloud seems to be the best one. Now we are going to go in here and we'll change a few of these up once we actually get this fish in. So the thing is now we need to actually have him swimming around this actual pond here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my fish and I'm going, in fact, first of all, actually, I'm going to grab the water and I'm going to hide it out the way. Then I'm going to come in to where my actual path is, or a curve, what we're going to turn into a path. And I just need to make sure that the fish is not actually going to be going through this bit of mud here. So what I'll do is I'll grab it, I'll press 7 to go over the top, and then I'll press G, and I'll just move it out there so he's not going to actually go through there. I'm just making sure that I'm happy with it. And then once I'm happy with it now, if you come over to the right hand side, you will see that you have the curve option. But if you scroll down, you'll actually see that you've got one that says path animation. Now at the moment, you can see that this is over so many frames, so 100 frames. In other words, if we put a point on here, it would go around this in 100 frames. So we want this higher. So let's put it on something like 300. And let's also set the end value of our actual time frame to 300 as well to match up like so. Now we want to put our fish against this. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab the actual path, pressing Control P, and we have one that says follow path. The moment you click that on, you will see that you have a line now to your actual fish. And if I press spacebar, you will see that the fish is trying to follow it. Albeit it's in the wrong way. It doesn't look like it's doing anything right now. Now what we need to do now is we need to put this back to 1, and we need to reset this fish to here. So I'm going to come into my actual curve. I'm going to grab this point here. I'm going to press Shift S, cursor to selected. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my fish and I'm going to press Shift S and I'm going to pick selection to cursor. And now our fish should follow this around. Now we have a few problems here. First of all, he's going to be going the wrong way. So we need to spin him around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and now line him up with the actual curve. So if I press Alt and Z, let's line him up with the curve like so. And now when we press spacebar, we can see that he's following that curve like so. And he's actually swimming around, as you can see. If I double tap the A now, you can see it's kind of got that beautiful fish movement as he goes around. Now, the thing is, when you're doing something like this, it's sometimes a bit better if you make him a little bit smaller, because then the actual turns aren't as obvious. As you can see now, he's swimming in a much, much better way. But you can see why I was reluctant as well to make it such a sharp turn, because you really, really don't want sharp turns with this. Now then, let's discuss what we can actually do to, make him swim a little bit more. So first of all, we can come down to our actual strength of our displacement. If we put this on, let's say something like 50, you'll see that it's really, really crazy. But if we only put it up slightly, so 1.2, something like that, it does make the actual action of the fish much, much more. So now you can see it swimming around. Now the other thing is, I think actually with this, I need him swimming a little bit slower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my curve. I'm going to go over to my curve options. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on 400. And then what I'm going to do is change the timeline to also be on 400. And now you'll see he's swimming much, much slower and he's looking a lot more realistic. Now, the other thing is that we can do is we can grab our fish. I can press Shift D. I can make him much, much smaller, this fish. Make sure he's relatively close, like so. Like something like that. And then what I can do is I can come over back to my modifiers tab and I can change this to, let's say, 1.4, something like that. And then what I can do is now, if I press spacebar, you'll see that these fish, although they actually follow each other, they actually move in a different way. So this one will be moving more, because if we click on this fish, you'll see this is still set at 1.2 and this fish is set at 1.4. Again, the only thing you can't do though is the actual texture. The moment you change this texture, it will change. So if I put this on 0.1, it will change both of them. As you can see, now they're both actually moving in that certain way. Now, the other thing is you need to be careful that you don't set this too high, so you're not getting a lot of movement or anything like that. Now, if we bring back our water, so if I press Alt H, in fact, I will go in and just hide this out of the way. So if I press H, hide it out of the way, and now we can look at our fish swimming around our actual pond, and you can see now they look pretty realistic. And obviously you can have a shoal of fish as well in there or something like that. All right, so that's a really, really easy way of animating fish with displacement. So we've learned another way of actually animating something based on an actual curve, which we turn into a path, and also based on displacement. So you can see now it's a real part of the kit of the whole, kind of Blender animations. All right, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one, everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.